Hi, my name is Giselle Thompson, and welcome to the Live the Life You Want speaker series. We're here to learn more about how to overcome adversity, be happy, and live the life of your dreams. I'm hosting the series because of an experience I went through with raising 5 children. My husband has a disability, working full time, and I hit my wall, and I learned from others how to begin to overcome that. And it's very important for me to be able to turn around and help those who were where I was and are looking for support. So today I have with me Dr. Robert Puff, and he has been helping people for a very long time. I think he told me over 25 years. He has been studying happiness for just as long, I believe. That's my understanding. And I have a few things that I'll share with you. He's internationally recognized clinical psychologist, host of the Happiness podcast, and he really teaches people a holistic approach to life. He's blogged for Psychology Today for a long time, and I really love his quote on his website when he says, "When you learn to take care of yourself and love all areas of your life, you enrich not only yourself, but all the people around you." And I can vouch that's been what I've learned as well. And the reason I wanted to work with Dr. Puff for this series is I really appreciated his, like he said, holistic approach, that there's a spiritual dimension to it, that there's consideration for the anger, because I think we all at some point feel frustrated and angry, and that he acknowledged that, so that we can accept that and move forward. And I just really like that whole approach. So welcome, Dr. Puff.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. And so today we're going to focus on attachments as a source of suffering. So I'm going to hand it over to you to speak to it. And as questions come up, I will like them for you to provide more clarification. Is that okay?
Okay. Yep. Well, I'm going to start then from the beginning, where they come from and why they cause us to suffer. When we're very young, life is just a wonderful adventure. It's beautiful. Everything's like interesting. Even pain can be interesting. But what happens is around 2 to 3 years old, we start remembering things. We have good experiences, and our mind kicks in, call it the ego, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it the ego. The ego kicks in and says, okay, we're going to keep those good things. We're going to have a lot of the good things. And then bad things happen, pain, suffering. And the ego says, I'm going to push those away. So, which is fine. It's trying to protect us. But actually, in the process of protecting us, it causes us to suffer. Because in the process of trying to push away and grasp things, since life, the number one rule of life is impermanent. Life constantly changes. So the ego is trying so hard to push bad things away and keep good things close that it causes us to suffer, because it's saying every time something doesn't work out, we get really upset and we suffer. So freedom, happiness, peacefulness comes from not that we don't do and work towards things that do make us feel good and make us happy and push away things that cause us pain, but realizing when it isn't going the way that we expect or the way we want, we can adjust to that. And if we adjust to that and work towards what I call accepting what is when we've done our best, and ultimately loving what is when we've done our best to change it, then life goes beautifully. But we suffer when we say, this isn't supposed to happen this way, and I don't like this. And the more we hang on to those attachments that we don't want things to be a certain way, when they are that way, the only person that really is going to suffer there is ourselves. So what I try to teach is, how do you avoid the suffering? And we avoid the suffering by not clinging too tightly to anything in life. It's more like a childlike approach to living. You kind of go back to that childlike approach, not childish, but childlike. You say, okay, I want to have a beautiful life. So let's say, for example, let's use the example like we're single, we want to be married. And there's nothing wrong with working towards being married because you want to have kids someday and it sounds wonderful. But if today there's no one in your life and there's nothing you can do about it, you can't go on a date, there's no one you can meet. So what you need to do is say, okay, today I am single. How do I celebrate being single even though I want to be married? And we can do that. So it's a lot of what it is just flowing well with life, though working towards goals, but realizing that life just changes. And if we flow with the changes, instead of clinging too tightly to anything, we do well. So another example would be, let's say we really want a house. We buy a house. We get a beautiful home that we love. It's a 4-bedroom. Our family's there. But then '08 hit. '08 hit, and we made some choices that caused us to lose our home. Now, some people, did okay with that. They lost their home and they said, well, now we're going to have a smaller place. But other people, lots of people really suffer from that because they were attached to clinging. They were clinging too tightly to their home. And so they suffered. So the example I like to give, I'm a clinical psychologist. I work in Newport Beach. So I work with the kind of uber duper wealthy. And, what I tell them is, because they are here to get better, I say, okay, do you want to be free? Do you want to be completely free? And then they say, oh, I'd love to be. I said, well, here's the deal. A lot of them are living in, multi-million dollar homes on the beach. I said, if you can imagine that you lose everything financially and you and your family have to move into a trailer park and you only get one room in that trailer park and you're so poor you have to ride a bus or take a bus or ride a bicycle to get back and forth to your place of work. If you could see that and be okay, then you're free. Now, the key of it is most people won't go there, but if we're able to visualize sometimes what we're afraid of and say, I can do that, then what happens is instead of that fear kicking in, which we have so much fear inside of us, we begin to flow with life and life goes so much better. Again, it isn't that we don't work towards things. It's realizing that we aren't always able to control life as well as we'd like. And that's okay. And we can flow with life. And when life isn't going the way we would like it to, we say, oh, this is okay. I'll make that work. It's again, another example would be like going to a restaurant. And let's say their special is salmon. You love salmon. And you get there and they say, oh, sorry, sir, we're all out of salmon. And that's like life not giving you a partner or life taking away your home. That's not having salmon. So you have two options there. You say, this is terrible. This is awful. This is horrible. Why don't they have salmon? Be really upset.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say, well, what do you have instead? And then you adjust what you have instead. So that's adjusting to, even though you're working towards what you want, you have to adjust to what is. We fight what is a lot of times.
Okay. So I have a couple of different kinds of examples, if you could kind of walk through them, just because I think
Absolutely.
this is very helpful. And my interest in particular, because of living with a disabled partner, and following different forums with people who live with disabled partners. One of the things that I found is I became invisible in my life because I became a series of functions: raise the kids, go to work, be the wife, and then who am I? You lose, right? So you're losing your sense of self in that process. So my question is, for people who are caring, for example, a disabled partner or an ill parent, or one of those kinds of situations where they're giving and they're showing that they care, like, and they do care, but at some point they're losing their sense of self. Like, how does that attachment suffering bit apply in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, a lot of what it is what we do is there's I call it pain versus suffering. So pain is where, let's say I hurt my back, and that's painful. It does, it hurts. The suffering is saying, why did I hurt my back? Why did God allow this? Why is this happening? And we spend a lot more time with the suffering than pain. So in my work, I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been in practice for now actually 30 years, and I'm not remotely burnt out because what I do is I make sure that I'm okay first. I take care of myself, and then from that fullness, I give to everyone around us, including my family and the people I see, and as you know, the larger audience that I reach out to. So when you're in a caretaking situation, the first thing you want to do is say, am I okay? And it doesn't take much. It can be as simple as having a glass of tea in the morning. It can be as simple as sitting outside and meditating. It can be as simple as going around a block and going for a walk. There's many ways that we can take care of ourselves. But what happens is we get so caught up into the caretaker, and we actually create a story of suffering that we lose the ability to do self-care. When we do self-care, we actually are a better parent, we're a better caretaker, and we're a better partner. So I often describe it as we're like a pyramid. A pyramid is a very solid structure. But a pyramid to work well is at the bottom is us and our relationship with ourselves. How are we doing? Our relationship with God. The next priority on the pyramid is our partner, our spouse, and then how's that going? Our next priority is our kids, and our last priority should be our work and everything else. For most people, they have what's called an inverted pyramid. Their work comes first, then their kids, and then their partner, then themselves. So it's a crash and burn. So if you do want to be healthy, if you want to be happy, if you want to be holistically happy, it isn't that it's going to take a lot of time, but just pausing, just taking time for yourself is a beautiful way to live life. And what you'll find is, my profession is extremely high burnout. How I've been able to do it for 30 years is I make sure I'm okay first. As you know, tomorrow I'm actually leaving on vacation to go on retreat. So those are the things that we do to be healthy and happy. Is nothing wrong with giving, but make sure that we're okay too. And I
Mm.
do think the people that do it the best throughout history did self-care. But we get into, when we're caretakers, we forget that self-care is a critical, important to taking care of others.
Yeah, and then that makes a lot of sense. I remember when I kind of pulled myself up out of what I call the rabbit hole, and of feeling like lost in all of it, and just getting this really big insight of, oh my God, by self-sacrificing, I made myself weaker for my family.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that was a big moment for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it is part of my motivation for the work that I've committed to doing. By being strong, that's where you are helping your family the most. And if you're not with family, then those whom you care about the most, it's by
Right.
being strong in yourself. Self-sacrifice, bad.
Right. I mean, you're going to give, of course, because giving is part of loving, but it's saying you can give a lot longer, a lot better if you first say, how am I doing? Did I just take a minute, again, to pause? Did I take a minute to maybe get out to dinner with my husband? Did I get out and, go have some free time and go on a retreat by myself? If we do that, life goes so much better. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been super helpful. I know, I feel that you've answered the question very well, and we do have a little bit of time on the clock. Is it okay if I ask you a little bit about your thoughts around the spiritual dimension of
Absolutely.
self-care and attachment
Yep.
and suffering?
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad question. So, I mean, I do think spirituality is the deepest part of what we can go to. So I think there, again, what it would be is being still. I think having moments of time where we can pause and be still. I mean, literally still, where we're, where we're being still, sitting in meditation, we're in nature, we're on retreat, we're taking time to say, okay, where is my place in the universe? Because if we're spiritual beings, I mean, I like math, like I'm a math person. And we're eternal, and eternal is a really long time. And this life is pretty brief in retrospect to eternity. So it seems like to me that we should spend a bit of time on that. And a lot of where that is, I know we can read books and go to church and things like that, but I do believe that the deepest way we're going to find a connection to our spirituality is by going within and just being still. That still small voice inside of us will begin to communicate to us. And we find that connection. And that's why I really believe in meditation. I think that's a wonderful thing to develop spirituality. I think taking time to be in nature is another great way of doing that. I think connecting with spiritual people is another way. And I also think paying attention to what we spend time with, because we are like compare us to like a computer. Whatever comes in is going to go out. So if we spend, every evening coming home and watching, like reality TV, that's going to create a very different outcome than if we come home and spend time in nature, go for walks, connect with our family. That's a very different experience. If we like listening to this, the series that you're creating, I mean, we could be doing this, or we could be maybe watching, some, like a reality show or something that is a lot more not healthy for us. We're a lot like food. Think of it that way. So whatever we eat, our bodies absorb. So if we're eating lots of green, organic, fresh fruits and vegetables, we do great. If we eat a lot of sugar and things like that, we don't do as well. Our minds are the same way. If we take time to make sure that everything matters, what I tell people is everything matters. So pausing and saying, okay, is this good for me? Is this relationship good for me? Are these thoughts good for me? Is my inner dialogue good for me? And then say, okay, if it isn't, it's how do I begin to change it? And we're not going to change it overnight, but if we work on it slowly, it really can begin to change. It takes work, it takes effort, but we can have truly beautiful lives if we take the time to change what's happening inside of us.
Wow. Thank you very much for everything that you've shared today. It's clearly, you're very skilled at this, and you've delivered a lot of message in a very short amount of time. And now I'm going to ask you the challenge of if there was one thing you wanted people to walk away from your interview today, what is the one thing you'd like them to carry with them?
I think really give all of us and give ourselves time to pause and pause where we're just still. I think in that stillness, the vast universe opens up and it's beautiful, but no one pauses. Pause, be still, and soak up what's internal instead of spending so much time on the external.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Wow. So thank you so much. I know you mentioned that you have a gift you wanted to share with the audience. Did you want to speak to it a bit?
Sure. I do create, I think you mentioned it, I create what's called the Happiness Podcast. There are over 110 episodes so far. I do a new one every week. They're on iTunes, or they're everywhere. It tends to do pretty well. So they're 10, 20 minutes long. It's a lot of what we're talking about here. I talk about there every single week. And you can the easiest way to find them is probably just type in my name, Dr. Robert Puff, on iTunes, or type in my name anywhere, because it's easy to remember Dr. Robert Puff, or Puff, the Magic Dragon. and then look for the Happiness Podcast, and then it will pop up, and I think you'll find them really helpful. And like I said, I create a new one every single week. So there's just a lot of different ways, and I'm just constantly pinging on how do we make our lives better. So
That's an amazing. Yeah, you're clearly doing something that you love, and that's making you happy, and it's keeping you young and fresh and ready to keep giving, and that's just really amazing. And I think it's something to aspire to as people are listening to your suggestions here today. To what you're doing. If people just take the time to apply the things that you've suggested, they too can have a very full and rich life giving back.
yeah, and thank you so much for doing this too, because a lot of people, I always, when I grew up, I remember, thinking, I wish I knew this when I was younger. So there's really lots of information out there now that can make our lives just awesome, but it takes time. We are conditioned human beings, and remember, everything matters. So if we take time to learn what works and what doesn't work, we can, again, I know I keep saying that, but we can truly have beautiful lives. But it does take work. It's like being a top athlete. You don't become a top athlete unless you work it, and you don't keep being a top athlete until you keep working it. So it's the same way with happiness and peacefulness.
Yeah.
We have to work it, and we have to keep working it till the day we die. But the beautiful thing is we can do that till the day we die.
Yeah. What a beautiful way to go through life, as opposed to feeling empty every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I again thank you very much for coming today, and I want to thank the listeners for listening to Dr. Puff today. And please stay tuned for other interviews that we're conducting in the series to help give you practical ideas and suggestions and strategies to overcome adversity, be happy, and live the life of your dreams, because it is possible. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.